Fromsoftware's Souls series has some of the most awesomest boss fights to date. It's just unfortunate that some of them happen to be liquid garbage shit right out of a monkey's ass. Let's count down the ones that are far better in concept than execution, and hopefully, in the future, whether through a remake or spiritual successor, these bosses will get their due justice. My name is Trey, and this is Based Souls.
You've got to do better.
Okay, so ceaseless discharge. What the hell were you people thinking? I mean, I know that the second half of Dark Souls is straight up poop and all, but this is just ridiculous. The concept of fighting a giant lava man and having to dodge his punches sounds like a really good concept. So how the hell did we end up with this? FromSoft, you gotta do better.
You've got to do better.
Another boss from the original Dark Souls that totally sucks my ass. Gravelord Nito looks awesome, has a pretty cool story, and the fight is just awful. There's gotta be something that we could do with this guy to make him better.
You've got to do better.
All right, so let's talk about the Capra Demon. This boss looks really cool. He's got two giant machetes. I love this design, right? But apparently, when they were deciding on where the arena should be, Miyazaki was preoccupied looking at the latest issue of Piss Swamp's magazine, and the people that worked under him apparently just chose a closet. You see, that's not gonna be very fun, because this boss's machetes are so big that pretty much anywhere in this area, it's very easy for this guy to hit you, and it's very hard to play strategically. And for some reason, there are just two dogs in here also. I don't know what to say. This makes no sense. Why would you do this? What were they thinking? You know? Get rid of the dogs, make the arena bigger, probably need to speed up Capra Demon, maybe change his moveset, and he could have been one of the best bosses in the game.
You've got to do better.
All right, so what an interesting situation we have when we're talking about the moon presence. FromSoftware lets us go through all this crap to unlock a hidden boss, which there are some hidden bosses in these games that are pretty freaking sweet. But the moon presence looks neat. It's got that Lovecraftian look that we're hungering for so much, the weird, crazy alien looking stuff, and I like that a lot. But the boss's HP is just a joke by the time you get this far in the game, and is much easier to kill than Gehrman is. I think this boss needs to be tanked up a little bit, maybe even sped up a little bit. Let's bring this thing more to the level of Orphan of Kos, and I think that would help this boss be a lot better.
You've got to do better.
Okay, so one of the few bosses in Demon Souls that is not a puzzle fight, the Penetrator, actually looks like a major badass. And he kind of is. I think the biggest problem with this guy is that he's not very tanky and he's a little slow. If we sped this dude up some, made him a little harder to hit, or at least made him able to tank a little bit more damage, this guy would easily be competing with King Allant for best boss fight in the game.
You've got to do better.
I don't give a crap. Any of you Dark Souls 2 haters that want to talk shit about this guy, I love the Covetous Demon. I think the mechanic of him being able to eat you and unequip your gear is awesome. I love the feature of the fact that you can like shoot the pots down with the corpses or the hollows, and he can eat them, and even though he will gain health, he's also kind of preoccupied, a la Soul Remains or something like that, or an Alluring Skull. But I think that this guy's biggest weakness is the fact that you can just hide in his armpit for a lot of the fight and he can't hit you. He can do a lot of damage if he does belly flop on you or roll onto you, or like if the white version in the DLC charges at you, he can hit you pretty good. But I think if we sped him up just a little bit and maybe made him also have a little bit bigger of a health bar, maybe add a few moves, again, that might help too. I would just love to see a badass version of Covetous Demon. And like I said, the mechanic of him unequipping your gear is just cool. It's really cool and unique, and I love it. Could you imagine playing Elden Ring with your busted bleed build and then all of a sudden the boss takes your precious bleed weapon away? You noobs would be screwed.
You've got to do better.
She may be one of the cutest things in all of gaming, but let's not forget the fact that if you piss off Priscilla, she does become a boss. Problem is, it's a little too easy to see where she goes when she's invisible because she's walking in the snow. And she's not very tanky, she doesn't have that many moves, and she's kind of a pushover, which is probably why most of us feel bad when we have to kill her. I think that this boss, with the whole concept of going invisible, this could be awesome. Make her faster, make her tankier, make it to where she's not in the snow all the time, make it a little bit trickier to track her. Like maybe have occasional spots where you can see her footsteps. That would make it a lot more intense and a lot more fun. And please, let's get a Dark Souls remake where Priscilla is actually a badass boss. I also need to acknowledge the fact that I would treat her well and I would show her a good time.
If she was real in real life, like I said earlier, I would treat her well, take her out sometimes, show her a good time. Then basically she wouldn't be shy a lot.
You've got to do better.
Okay, let's talk about one of the coolest concepts for a boss that I've ever heard of. The old hero is blind, and he will just walk around looking for you until you attack him or you make noise. I think this is such a neat, interesting concept, and I would love to see more bosses show up in gaming that have a mechanic like this. It sucks that the Thief Ring kind of breaks this boss and is just the most blatant cheese you can do to this guy. But what if we took the Thief Ring and made it a little less effective against this boss? Or maybe even completely ineffective at all, since he is a boss. And instead, we added more areas in his arena to maybe have some gravel that crunches when you walk on certain spots, or maybe even have bells or something that when you swing your weapon, if you accidentally hit them, that it'll make him just like dive straight to that point and make it a lot more dangerous, because the old hero, even without the Thief Ring, he's not that difficult. So I think if we made him a little bit harder, he could really be one of the best bosses in the game. And he already is, but I would just like to bring all the Demon Souls bosses really more up to that King Allant level. And old hero, he has such a cool concept. I want to see this happen more.
You've got to do better.
Okay, so when I saw the opening cutscene to Dark Souls 3, I thought to myself, holy shit, we're gonna have another boss that is a giant. This is gonna be amazing. And unfortunately, it turns out that all of the giants in Dark Souls 2 are much more fun to fight than Yhorm the Giant. This is kind of sad. And you know, I've got to say that even though the last giant is one of the best bosses, I just love the last giant. He is also the first boss in Dark Souls 2, and he is a better fight than fighting one of the freaking Lords of Cinder in Dark Souls 3. This should not be the case. Yhorm is a gimmick boss, and I completely hate this for this guy. You have to use the Storm Ruler, which I don't even understand why the Storm Ruler is what they're using. Maybe it's because he's really tall. I don't care. That sucks. I don't like it. Screw the Storm Ruler, throw that thing in the garbage. Let's just bring Yhorm's gigantic health bar down to a normal level. Maybe just a little bit, you know, extra because he is a Lord of Cinder, right? But what we should do is make it more of a normal boss fight. Like I'm thinking, like the Giant Lord in Dark Souls 2, but maybe a faster and more intense fight, because Dark Souls 3, after all, is a faster game than Dark Souls 2. I think we could have a winner with this formula. With all the crappy boss fights that this series has, I just want to acknowledge the fact that instead of honorable mentions, we're going to mention the dishonorables, the bosses that are so bad that I don't think they can be fixed. I don't think they can be redeemed. And I have 3 specifically in mind that I want to talk about right now. So the Moonlight Butterfly, I hate this boss. It's stupid. They put a ranged summon into Dark Souls because they knew that this boss was dumb and annoying. And I do not want to play, I don't want to feel forced into playing ranged combat if I don't want to. And I also hate waiting for the stupid butterfly to land on the bridge for me to hit him. And if I'm not doing enough damage, I may have to wait 3 times for this fucking thing to come down to the bridge. And that is not fun. It's boring. It's stupid. It's not even that hard. It's just boring. Just screw this boss. You can't fix him. Throw him in the garbage. Okay, so the next dishonorable mention is the Curse Rotted Grapewood. And yeah, a boss with weak points can totally work. This is proven in the very same game with Dark Eater Midir, of course. But this boss, again, if you're playing melee, you have to just sit there and wait for it to turn and blah, 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 so that you can hit the ball sacks off of the tree. And it's just so annoying. It's like, let me just dodge the tree's piss, let me dodge the hollows, and hopefully I'll get to knock these tumors off of this tree. And again, it's just not a fun fight. It just sucks. I hate this boss. I'm just glad that I do not need to make boss weapons every time I play Dark Souls 3, so I can skip this piece of crap. Not just the worst boss in Dark Souls. Not just the worst boss in a Fromsoftware game. The Bed of Chaos is the worst thing that has happened ever. And it is just another example of Fromsoftware not having a clue how to make a decent boss out of a tree. It's just a thing, apparently. This boss sucks. It is stupid. And if you try to defend this boss, then you are stupid. And that is a fact. Now, let's get to the number 1 pick and talk about a boss that could potentially be good.
You've got to do better.
I did not know anything about Demon Souls before I was in a video game store and somebody told me to try it out. So, I booted up the game and I saw the awesome opening cutscene and I saw, oh my God, what is that giant monster thing? That thing is so freaking cool and awesome and badass looking. Wouldn't it be amazing if we actually got to fight that in the game? And we kind of get to fight it in the game. It just turns out that it's a big giant piece of shit. I hate it. It sucks. How did they take something so awesome looking and make it so incredibly lame? I mean, we have this Metal Gear style stealth, hiding from the line of sight. You've got running to ballistas that are just there. I mean, if this thing is like this all-powerful demon, Why doesn't it just like reach over there and just mash the ballista with its finger and just break it? But he's just sitting there like, oh, surely nobody will sneak into this giant room and grab the ballista and shoot it at me. And even then, the two little tiny ballistas, they hit him and he is done for. Like, what? This thing is supposed to be a god? This is the most wussiest god I've ever seen in my life. I actually am totally down with a boss fight where you do have to sneak around. One of my favorites is fighting Mr. Freeze in Arkham City. Shit is peak. But with the Dragon God, I don't know, man. I just kind of feel like there should be some combat involved in this thing. And Blue Point, they made a remake of Demon Souls, and they did not fix any of the bosses. I really wish that had happened, because the game is very pretty. But this boss, unfortunately, still totally sucks. And the Dragon God, even if this is in a spiritual successor in a future Fromsoftware game, we need something like this to be a real fight. A real fight. Do it, Miyazaki. Do it. Tanimura, help him. Get him to stop looking at feet for 5 seconds, and let's make a Dragon God boss good. All right, you have made it to the end of the video, and I appreciate you watching to the end. I hope that means that you enjoyed it, and I would just like to take a moment to point out all of these names that are going up the screen right now next to me. These are our channel members, these are our patrons from Patreon, and these are the fine people who have donated super chats and have actually gifted channel memberships. Yes, that is actually a thing you can do, and it's really cool. If you would like to support the channel on Patreon, the link is conveniently placed in the description of this video, and the same is for the link to our really fun Discord. Please join it, have fun with us. We're a big happy family in there. You'll be glad you did. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out a lot. And, you know, sharing the video is also really good, especially if you know somebody who enjoys this type of shenanigans on YouTube. I just want to tell you all again how much I appreciate each and every one of you guys for helping me achieve my dream of YouTubing. It's a lot of fun, and I love making videos to entertain you guys. You guys are just the best. See you next time.